All right, so about 30 minutes ago, I tried to start a live stream and wait for people to show up. Joke's on me. It's Thursday morning at 8 o'clock and everyone's at work. So I felt weird just sitting there with no one showing up. So then I stopped it, deleted it, and then I've been sitting here trying to figure out what kind of video to make. And while I was sitting here thinking to myself, you know, NPCs aren't supposed to go on vacation. And so I don't have anything to do. Like, we go to work so much, and our weekends are spent getting ready for the next work week, right? Where we spend our weekends doing chores, we try to relax a little bit. We try to do as many things as we can in order to not have to do them in the following week. And that's how we spend all of our weekends. And so I'm sitting here, and this is day 3 of vacation now, and you're just like, well, I have the same interactions with people every single day, whether it's at my job, the grocery store, or the gym. We see the same people every single day. And you have the same basic conversation with people every single day. How are you doing? Oh, are you looking forward to the weekend? Oh, that weather is so cold. And that's it. And then we go home and we eat something and then we power down in our bed and then we get up and do the exact same thing. You're not having deep, profound conversations with the gym girl receptionist that sits up there staring out the front doors like she wants to escape from being caged inside for 8 hours. So our lives are pretty simple, repetitive, boring, and for the most part, we get to spend our lives broke as well. So, as an NPC right now, I feel like I'm broken because I was going to go to the gym at 8 o'clock like I do on the weekends. But then I sat here and I thought to myself, I don't have to go. Um, Also, yesterday, for the person who I think it was Lennon, he's like, "You look really chubby in your silhouette from yesterday from filming in the park yesterday." I was really bloated yesterday when I was walking around in the park. Not only had I drank way too much the night before, but I also finished that drinking off with a large combo meal from Wendy's. So you saw me in that transition. That's not normally what I look like. And with that said, let's transition to my 3 talking points. So, this is what ChatGPT's talking points look like on being a real life NPC. Disconnection and isolation in modern life, the illusion of main character energy, and reclaiming agency through small acts of rebellion. This AI assistant is getting more and more funny every day. So let's get into our first one. With fleeting relationships, transient jobs, and the pressure to constantly hustle, it's easy to feel like a replaceable part in a large machine rather than the protagonist of your own story. We are not the protagonist of our own story. We meet simple people. Our jobs, I love this, transient. I would say that every job I've ever had in my entire life had no career path. It was just a job. And to call the job transient would be very accurate because our ordinary lives are transient. We bump into Susie Rottencrotch behind the Taco Bell. We might bump into another Susie at the grocery store or at the gym. But aside from that, she knows what it's all about, right? I was just having a discussion with someone that all you have to do is assume the position, we get the dirty deed done, and then we go about our days. We don't have to even think about it because there's no point. You don't really have to think about the act. The act is just shaking hands with the governor, but with someone else. But that's how simple our lives are. They can just from day to day, our transient jobs have very little meaning. Our transient relationships have very little meaning. And I've met people who have transient homes. They're constantly moving. Like this person that I was just texting a little while ago, she's moved like 5 times in 2 years. And I keep asking myself, how expensive is that to continually move? But while I worked in really crummy jobs, I've noticed that people, they have no loyalty to the job, so therefore they don't stick around. They know that it's going to be minimum wage here, they know it's going to be minimum wage over there, they know that these jobs don't come with health benefits, they don't come with anything. And if and the worst part is that the boredom, the boring nature of life isn't just your mindless repetitive job, it's coming home as well. It's almost like we, at least from my perspective, I don't want to put any thought into any conversation that I'm going to have with the person that's wearing a name tag. In fact, yesterday I had to go back to Kroger's a second time when I got back from the park because I went to Kroger's and I forgot that I went there to buy Pearl beer. And so I got home and I'm like, wow, that trip only cost me $10. And then I looked at my bags and I'm like, how do you forget the Pearl beer? And it was just one of those situations where you're just like, I went to the store and I wasn't thinking. And I got distracted by cute cashier number two twice. And so the second time, and this is the perfect example for this video. The first time I went up to the counter and I needed some smokes. She just handed them to me very mechanically. The second time she moved over to the self checkout and she did the age verification for me. And I looked at her and I said, and this is another very NPC question to ask another human. So what are you eating for dinner after work tonight? And she just looked at me, completely empty, right? There's no life in an NPC's eyes, right? An NPC has the exact amount of life in them that you get when you look into a dog's eyes, right? There's nothing in there. And so I looked right into her giant brown eyes and I thought, let's see what she says. And just like if on cue, she says, I'm having frozen pizza. And then I said to her, what kind? And I said, Red Baron. And she's just like, the question didn't even compute in her head. She's just like looked at me like, what does the kind matter? And that was a total NPC moment. Like what could have made that situation even more bizarre is if instead of having a response, she just powered down because it wasn't within her vocabulary to answer any questions from a customer. Like she should have just gone, just powered down, just standing there. She should have just put her head down and just gone, "Brrr." And then someone would have to come around and push her on button back to reset her so she could continue doing what she was doing, working the self checkout. Which I imagine that for 8 hours a day, working the self checkout must drive you insane. Because when I worked at Kroger's, I was the ultimate NPC. I pushed shopping carts. And so I I don't know how many thousands or millions of shopping carts I pushed inside the store, but it was a lot and I preferred to be outside. I didn't want to have any interactions with customers as an NPC because, again, the same way that I interacted with this cashier is the same way customers have interacted with me thousands of times across all of the different retail jobs I've ever had in my entire life. And so they come up to you and they ask you something and you just kind of repeat the same thing. Like people actually said this to me when I would come into Kroger's and your coworker would come up to you and I'd just say it's another day in the salt mines. And to them, it was like, why does he keep saying that? And I'm like, why doesn't that NPC like working here? Why doesn't he ever say anything different? And I'm just like, this, you're not supposed to enjoy these jobs. You're not supposed to enjoy your life as part of the proletariat. You're just supposed to sit at home and just like a good NPC sitting at home with nothing to do, like myself, you're supposed to tell people, like when people ask you, why aren't you at work right now? And you're just like, I'm on vacation. And they're like, and the standard response when I tell people that I'm going to be on vacation for 15 days is like, where are you going? And then you tell them nowhere. And they're like, well, that's not really a vacation. Poor people don't go on vacation. Sometimes we accumulate PTO and we have to use it because if we don't use it by the end of the year, it gets taken away. So we have to go home or somewhere else. I mean, you could sit in a parking lot at your job and just sit there and look at your office building, but you can't go inside because you're not getting paid. And so you could just sit there and just not do anything like a very stereotypical pro. But our lives are so mundane that every aspect of our life almost feels like it's scripted already. Like when I wake up in the morning, I tell myself this all the time. It's like I don't have to be at work till 8. I'm just going to lay in bed under the covers, warm, until 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be at work, and then I'm going to leave for work. It never happens. 6:30, 6:45 rolls around, and I'm like, I can't sleep anymore because my body knows that I have to go to my hell job. And it's like, you just know. It's like you've been programmed to go to your crummy job every single day and just enjoy the car battery attached to your boys all day long. And then at 5 o'clock, someone comes by and shuts the lever off to the car battery and they let you go home. And you, in the exact same path that you came to work, is the exact same path you go home, except for me. I stop at Kroger's to get some Pearl beer on the way home every day because if I buy, the more Pearl beer I have on hand is the Pearl beer that I will consume that night. So I tell myself that I'm only going to drink half of a 12 pack. But guess what? Half of a 12 pack always turns into a 12 pack because that's what an NPC does. You don't deviate from the script. You think that you're living your actual life, but the reality is it's just the same clip playing over and over and over in your head. And we don't meet people. On the average day, you don't meet any new people. And so you're stuck with the other NPCs in the office that may rotate, right? You know, because people get fired, people quit, people leave, people get angry, whatever happens. But they just bring another person who's going to go sit in that exact same spot, pretend to work all day, and then go home and tell you to have a good evening. Or I hope you feel better tomorrow. That's oh my gosh, that one. Oh my goodness, because people are will come up to me and it's like, "Oh, you seem depressed." Aren't all the NPCs depressed? We're not having insightful conversations with one another. We're NPCs. What we do is we acknowledge the fact that our lives don't matter. And regardless of what happens, it's not going to get better. Your NPC life is for life. It's a life sentence to be an NPC. And I remember years ago, during the pandemic, I was going over to Kroger's and there was this really angry guy that worked at the Kroger's across the street from my house. And I would ride over there on my bike and I'd ask him, how's it going, NPC? And it would just it would agitate him to the nth degree because he realized that's what he is. If you're going to work as a cashier in a Kroger's, you're an NPC. I'm an NPC working in an office. I come to work, I push the buttons on the keyboard, and then I go home. Nothing to our lives. We spend our off time in the exact same way. I mean, if I had a camera that had watched me for the past, I don't know, 20 years, you could see me getting stinking drunk at my desk for 20 years every single night. Because that's what I do. It's part of my script. I don't go off script. The only time I go off script is when someone forces me to not be at my home in the evening on my schedule. Sometimes I look at the clock and I see, uh-oh, I better hurry up and finish this beer because I'm not going to make it to my quota of drinking one beer every 15 minutes. So I'll speed it up. But that's how how miserable our lives are. So this one I was only going to read the first part of this particular talking point, but I think I need to read the sentence before it. Social media and consumer culture push the idea of main character energy, where success is measured by wealth, beauty, and constant achievement. This creates unrealistic expectations that make ordinary, meaningful lives feel inadequate. I was just going to read that second part, the part where ordinary lives make you feel inadequate. Because right now I feel inadequate. Like I got this wild hair yesterday that I was going to go to Sedona today. I woke up, it was cold. I didn't want to put gas in the car, and I didn't want to put forth the effort. I didn't want to go to Sedona just to be bored there. And I didn't want to go to Sedona to be alone there either. That's another really spicy aspect of being an NPC, is that your NPCs are alone. We interact with the world on a very basic human level. I would even say human. I would say robotic level is the our interactions with the world. So I would have gotten into my Promobile. It would have taken me 2 hours to drive to Sedona, and I would have gotten there and I would have thought, you know what, I want to go home because I want to do the things on my own schedule. I want to go to the gym. I want to go to the park. I want to go to the grocery store. And for some reason, oh, and I have to go wash the Promobile today. That's it. And then I come back home. I sit here, and then I go back to the gym at 2 o'clock to do afternoon cardio. Then I come, then I go to the grocery store. Then I come back home, make another video, and then I get stinking drunk again. Day resets. Day resets. Like, and this is the sad part. I know I've mentioned this before, but during the pandemic, it was really bad since I couldn't even do my normal things, right? Because everything was closed. So for hundreds of days at a time, I went to the window in my kitchen and I looked outside. And I said this to myself, and I said this to myself every single day for all of those hundreds of days. Sun comes up, sun goes down. Sun comes up, sun goes down. Because during that time, we weren't even having basic interactions. We were all wearing those masks, and no one wanted to talk to one another. And the only reason you ever left your house was to go get some more food, and then you'd come back, and then you'd just sit here. It was truly one of the times in my life where I felt like the isolation was driving me insane because our inadequate lives, well, other people may say that our lives are inadequate because they lack entertainment, pleasure, anything extraordinary happening. We don't, beautiful women just don't come into my apartment like the hub and take all their clothes off. That just doesn't happen. In fact, it's never happened in my life. And so you just kind of sit here watching time pass. And you get older and older, and you go look at yourself in the mirror, and it's like, oh my God, look, I've aged another 5 years. I'm getting older and older. Like yesterday, I was watching Athlete X, and I was like, you know what? I could have made this video, but that's beside the point. And you just look at him, and he's got the gray hair on the sides of his face and gray hair in the back of his head. And you're like, he didn't even try to cover it up. Usually you can tell that he dyes his hair for doing videos. This time he just didn't care. It's like, I look old and I am old, and that's just the way it is. So the constant achievements aren't part of being an NPC. I think my greatest achievement every day is just taking a massive dump, just staying regular. That's an achievement in my life. And that's like when I put my arm in the air and I say, go me, it's because I just took a massive deuce. Other than that, there are really no achievements in life. All right, so my last one, and this is kind of something I'm proud of ChatGPT for doing. It said, reclaiming agency through small acts of rebellion. Wow, ChatGPT, that's amazing. Acts of rebellion. So let's see what it says. I'm going to read the whole damn thing to you guys because the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. Breaking free from the background character mindset doesn't require monumental change, but rather small intentional steps. Focusing on meaningful connections, creating something you love, or simply refusing to conform to society's superficial definition of success can help reframe your role in your own life. It's not about being the hero in someone else's story, but finding fulfillment in your unique journey. Your unique journey. And this is fascinating because I was talking to a cougar yesterday, and she was telling me about how journaling has helped her be happier. And I thought to myself, you're a cougar, you're hot. Any man in this world would give you the time. And I thought about how ridiculous it was because I look at her and she's just drop dead gorgeous. And I'm like, how can you think like that? If I look like that, oh my God, I would have the world by the tail. But no, I look like a freaking goblin. And so I have to find the shadows to hide in every single day because I can't stand what I look like. And so when someone comes at you and you're like, look at them and you think about how much they have, right? Because this cougar has it all. She's still great looking with grandchildren. She has a lot of money. She owns her own business. Again, she's got a set of knockers that, oh my God. She almost looks cartoonish. She's shaped in such a strange way. Buns, cans, hair, face. I mean, like, truly, someone put this woman together with all the right parts. And you're just looking at her, and she has such a humble way of dealing with life. In fact, it was a few weeks ago, it was right before Halloween, and we were talking, and she says to me, Millennial Steam, I hate hot dogs. And I was like, okay, I'm quite fond of hot dogs myself. And I say to her, I hate the shape of the hot dog, don't you? And she's like, oh, yeah, I really hate the shape of the hot dog. And I thought, it was just such a funny NPC conversation, right? There was no intellect, there was no. There was no transitioning into a different topic. It was just two people having a tiny conversation about how much they dislike hot dogs, especially the shape. And the look on her face was serious too. It's like she just looked at me straight in the eyes and she said, I hate hot dogs. And I'm like, this woman has had too much hot dog in her life was my first thought. But being a background character is truly what it means to be alive in today's society. I don't think I've ever woken up one day and thought, you know what, today's going to be an amazing day. I'm going to go change the world or I'm going to meet someone fabulous and amazing. No. Every day you meet someone that's either as mediocre as you are or more mediocre than you are. And that's the way that we frame our lives. There, you, how do I put this? Like, I was actually thinking about this morning, early this morning. It's like I went from the academic world at the university where my day-to-day interactions were held with other professors, right? With professors, with educated people, with researchers, into a world where most people don't read books, they don't watch anything smart, they don't think about reading smart people books, they just live. They make their microwave popcorn and they watch Netflix, and the next day they wake up and they go out and try to be the hero of their own story with main character energy, but not realizing that you're an NPC. You don't have main character energy. You live vicariously through Prol Beer, through Susie Rottencrotch, through social media, and through movies. That's it. The little thrill that your heart gets every day is like, for me at least, comes from like the hub. I was just watching this chick taking a bath, and I'm like, yeah, that this is as good as it's gonna get in my day. And that's the sad part, that that can often be the highlight of your day, is shaking hands with the governor while you look at pictures on the internet.